I'm going to be focusing on today. It's this beautiful bohemian looking cuff, and I was really inspired to make something that was really earthy, and I love our ultra suede because it is a vegan alternative to animal products. And these ancient clay beads, which are kind of featured in this bracelet, are over 500 years old, and I wanted to incorporate those in some kind of design that would really bring them out. So we also have a couple of other goodies in here. We have some fair trade beads. We have a fair trade button here, fair trade daisy spacers, and some beautiful check glass, which will kind of bring this bracelet to life, as well as this lovely variegated turquoise. Okay, so here's step one, which is called relax and unwind. We're going to take our waxed linen here, which is nice and thick, and we're going to cut two 24-inch pieces of this. So we have two pieces just like this. And the first part to this process is you're going to want to actually separate the waxed linen. There are 4 strings that make up this one cord, and you want to separate all 4 of those strands. And the first thing you do is find the edge down here. You can kind of use your fingernails to get a good separation going. And it's going to separate in 2 first. So you have 2 here and 2 here. And then what you're going to do is you're going to grab with your middle finger and your thumb, one of them, and then just using your index finger, you're going to kind of unwind using your left hand, moving your way down the cord. And then once you get these separated here, you're going to have 2 pieces that look like this, essentially. And then you're going to take this piece and you're going to separate it down one more time. So find the edge. There's the 2 cords. And using the same technique I showed you in the beginning, you're just going to kind of separate them by unwinding it in the opposite direction that it's twisted, until eventually you end up with 4 pieces that are thin enough to accommodate most of the beads, actually all of the beads that we are going to be using for this project. Okay, so now we have 4 separated strands that came out of that one larger cord. And what we're going to do is we're going to take each one of these strands and bend them in half so that there are 2 tails that are the same length. And this is going to be what's going to make up our bracelet. Now to start, what you're going to do, you're going to take one of these strands here that you've bent in half, and you're going to, at the loop, tie an overhand knot. Going through once, going through twice. Pull taut. You can even pull taut this way, just like so. And you're going to repeat that with the rest of your strands until you eventually have, I'm going to be making a 9-stranded bracelet, so I actually have 5 pieces, and I'm going to cut one of the tails down so that I have 9. See? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, but I'm going to take one away so there'll be 9. Okay, so the next part of our bracelet that we're going to start here is we're going to be making the little end pieces of the bracelet that the strands are going to be attached to. So you're going to want to take your ultra suede and you're going to cut out 2 pieces that are roughly 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. And I have 2 pieces that just happen to be exactly that. So I have my 2 squares that I've cut out of my ultra suede. Each is 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the middle by folding one right in half here, giving it a nice little crease along the edge. And then I'm going to open it, and using my straight edge, I'm going to go right along where I see that nice little line. I'm going to take a Sharpie, and I'm going to draw a line just like so. Next, what I'm going to do, since my bracelet is obviously going to be 9 strands, I'm going to lay my ruler down along this line here, and I'm going to make little tick marks about every 1/8 of an inch or so. So I'm just going to continue making little tick marks about every 1/8 of an inch. And that'll give me more than enough for my strands, what I'm going to sew through. And if you end up with more tick marks than you have strands, that's okay, because you can always go back and cut the excess ultra suede off later. So we essentially have 2 pieces that are just like that, because I've done it to both sides. Okay, so now you're going to take one of those pieces that you just marked up, and you're just going to set that aside for a while, because we're going to be working with one piece. And the next step is to just take a regular old sewing needle that you probably have in your sewing kit at home, and we're going to take one of these waxed linen pieces that we have unwound and tied a knot at the end, and you're just going to feed one side of one of these pieces through, just like so. And along where you see the first tick mark here is you're just going to bring it right through, take the needle off, thread your next tail, next part of the tail through, and not in the same place, but in the next tick mark over, you're going to thread, take the needle off, pull taut. Now what you have is one of your pieces going through 2 different spaces here. And you're going to repeat this step until your tick marks have filled up or you are done adding strands. Okay, now I have my 9 strands that I want to use for this cuff threaded through, and I have my 10th strand right here. I've decided to only keep it to 9 because I really like odd numbers. And what I'm going to do is just simply take some cutters and cut that excess thread off. Now the next step, so I'm going to fold this over here, and just to temporarily hold it while I'm beading, I'm going to take some simple Scotch tape, and I'm just going to tape around the sides, just like so. And don't worry about the extra ultra suede at the end. We're going to cut that off so it won't be like hanging over. Okay, now the next step is the fun part. You're just going to twist it around and kind of think about it like strings on a guitar, and we're just going to start beading. Okay, so these are the beads that we're going to be using for this project. I also took a ramekin, and what I like to do is to take all of these beads and throw them into this ramekin because I kind of like to work at random. So it kind of gives you an idea of the palette that you're working with. So I've taken my lovely assortment of beads, and I've selected 9 of the same bead. It doesn't have to be the 3mm bronze. You can choose the pearl, you can choose the turquoise, but you essentially want 9 of the same bead to start with. Okay, so you're going to continue beading until you get to about 5 inches, and luckily I have a sample that is nearly completed right here. So you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like when it's mostly put together. If I were to lay all the strands out next to each other, this is what I've got. And the way I do this is I started by just stringing up the first strand, and then I compared, I went to the second strand, and when I got stuck visually, I would just move on to the next strand. So I've kind of was keeping in mind where I was spacing my colors. I've got, some reds here, and they're dispersed here and here. You just want to kind of maintain a consistent dispersal. Okay, so I have all of my beads strung up all next to each other, and I finished with the same bead that I started with on each strand for cohesiveness, and I added a little charm at the end. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and attach this piece here. When it's folded over, it's going to look just like that.